What's up, everybody? Trip with Sailing and Such here on YouTube, and in this video I'm going to give you guys some tips on how you can sleep more comfortably in your hammock. I've been out with a few people and with myself actually, and I know it can be tough to get comfortable and get that just right hang in your hammock. Hopefully you can use these tips to get a better night's rest in your hammock. First, I want to give a thanks and a big shout out to Derek Sailor. He is a patron over at Patreon who helps support the Sailing and Such channel. He recently upped his pledge from $2 to $10, and one of the rewards of a $10 Patreon, you get a shout out in a video. So thanks, Derek. I appreciate you, buddy. Now, let's get on to the tips. You need to put a ridgeline on your hammock. It doesn't matter what kind of hammock you have, you can always put a ridgeline on there. Now, what a ridgeline is it's this rope that goes from point to point from my actual hammock. So not only do I have the complete suspension system, but I also have a rope that goes between the ends of my hammock. Now what this does is it basically lets you get a good sag in your hammock. This is going to play a big role in how comfortable you can get, because if you have your hammock just pulled super tight like that, it's not going to be very comfortable when you lay in it. But when you have this ridgeline, you can adjust it, and so no matter how far apart your trees are, how tight your suspension is, no matter how tight I pull this, I still have the same sag, the same droop in my hammock. If your hammock is pulled really tight, what's going to happen when you lay in it, you're going to be just like this. You're going to be really tight and really uncomfortable, and you're not going to be able to get a good flat lay, okay? How long should you make your ridgeline? Well, everyone has their own little sweet spot, but a good place to start, a good rule of thumb, is make your ridgeline length about 83% of your hammock length. So here I have about an 11-foot hammock, so I made my ridgeline about 83% of that length, but really I like mine a little bit shorter. So I'm about, what's that, like 75% or maybe 80% of my hammock length. So I like a little bit extra sag. Next is how you actually lay in the hammock, okay? You don't want to lay straight, just like this, because well, you risk kind of tipping out of it easily, and you can't really get a good flat lay, and it kind of, you know, holds your shoulders real tight and stuff like that, so it's just not as comfortable. But if you change yourself to a little bit of a diagonal, you can develop a much flatter lay, and you have a lot more space as well. It's just so much more comfortable to lay like this, and you're very stable in the hammock. You're not going to fall out of one of these gathered in hammocks like you would a regular hammock that you see that has the braces on the ends. Another little bonus tip is you don't want to lay in the middle of your hammock, of your entire hammock. You know, here I'm kind of laying about in the middle. I want to kind of have my torso right in the middle. So I kind of slide to one end, you know, my feet are closer to one end of the hammock than the other, so I can just kind of lay back. And this kind of gives me a little wider spot around my torso and my shoulders to just improve that bit of comfort. Next up is a pillow. This is a Trekology, this little travel pillow, a horseshoe-shaped one. I just picked this up about a week ago. I've always kind of wanted a nicer pillow. What I've used in the past is just a little stuffed sack with my bug net or a shirt or my jacket stuffed into it, and I'll just place it behind my neck. Because when you get in a hammock, you may think you don't really need a pillow, but you know, you kind of want something to sort of support your head so that, you know, it's not rocking left and right and your muscles aren't engaged when you're trying to sleep. So I've got this little bitty pillow. It's so small, so light, and like I said, it's a horseshoe shape, and just a couple little breaths and it's blown up. I don't like to have my pillow fully inflated. I like to have it kind of loose. I like to take this and place it behind my head with a horseshoe style up. I slept like this past week at the house. One night, all night, and oh my goodness, it was fantastic. But so I'll just kind of lay in here, just get the pillow, and it stays in place really well, and it just supports your entire head. The main support that I found that I needed is just mainly under the back of my neck, but having this around the side of my head really just makes a big difference. Oh, that is so nice. That is so nice. So pillow is really important. I've tried to sleep without a pillow, and I've just found that I just can't do it. You know, I'll lay there for a little while and I'll be like, okay, I gotta find something to use a pillow with. So don't forget your pillow at home. And one of these little bitty pillows, they're not very expensive. There's a link below to this pillow here if you want it. And this is a nice, comfortable pillow. It's kind of a stretchy material, so it's really great, really great. Something else that's really simple is something under my knees. A lot of times I find that my knees are kind of, I don't know, maybe a little bit hyperextended, so they're just a little strain on them. You know, they're trying to bend back too much. So I find that if I just stick something under my knees, oh, it makes a world of difference just to bend my knees just a little bit. I've taken my jacket or just anything I could find and just stuffed it under there and left it there all night, and it makes a world of difference, because like I said, I find that sometimes my knees, when they're just held straight out like that, it's just not comfortable. Here I have just a little stuff sack that works, and this might even be a little bit big. Something that I would like to try is to get another kind of rectangular inflatable pillow to go under my knees as well. And that would just make it so light, so small, so simple to do. So something under your knees. I don't know if it's recording or not. Oh. Yes. The next thing you need to ensure a good night's sleep is going to be an underquilt. Now, you're going to need an underquilt if the temperature, I would say, is below 70 degrees Fahrenheit, or if there's going to be a lot of wind. Because whenever you lay in a hammock, even if you have a sleeping bag or a jacket or some insulation between you and the hammock, when you lay in it, your body's going to compress that insulation, and it's not going to keep you very warm. Trust me, I've been a victim of it myself, but I've been camping with a lot of people who are kind of newer to hammocks, and they've gotten really cold in their hammock because they didn't have an underquilt. This right here is an Arrowhead Equipment Jarbidge underquilt. It's a synthetic quilt. I think it's about a $100 quilt, which is really, I think, the best value that I was able to find out there. Granted, it is synthetic. If you were to go to down or something, which is something I'd like to do, it's going to be a little bit lighter and compact down a little bit smaller, but you just need an underquilt. You really just need some sort of insulation under you. Now, you can use a pad, but a pad, while it will keep you warm, I find that a lot of times I have condensation, your body will sweat between you and the pad, and you'll just be damp and, sometimes wet and sometimes soaking wet on the pad. So that's why a underquilt is going to be superior to the pad. Ooh, that was close. Once you get all this figured out and you find your perfect hammock setup, you're going to get so comfortable in your hammock, you're going to love it so much, you'll never sleep on the ground again unless you have to. I really hope you're able to get your ridgeline figured out, your sag figured out, your diagonal lay figured out, and where you need to be positioned in the hammock figured out, and your underquilt, as well as your pillow. Then of course you're going to need some top insulation. You can use a sleeping bag, or here I have just a cheap down throw from like Bed Bath & Beyond or somewhere that you can just toss on top of you and stay pretty doggone toasty all night long and stay comfortable, and you'll not want to get out of your hammock in the morning. So if you get all this stuff figured out, and once you find that sweet spot, you can recreate it every time. That's the point of the Ridgeline, is so you can recreate your sag. But then all these other tips, they kind of fall into place. They're not hard to recreate. But so once you get them figured out, you're going to be so comfortable in your hammock, you're going to love it so much, you're never going to want to sleep on the ground again unless you just have to. I really hope these tips are helpful for you and that they improve your time spent in a hammock, because I think this just is the way to go when you're out hiking or kayak camping or whatever you're doing. Just being up off the ground is so nice. And woo, this is getting hot. If you know some people who have maybe not been able to get comfortable in their hammock for an overnight, share this video with them. Share it to a Facebook page. Share it to something. Let's see if we can get everybody comfortable in their hammock, because once you're there, it's just, you're like laying on a cloud. It's so nice.